So, talking a little bit more about why we do the things that we shouldn't do and why don't we do the things that we should do. So, this is generally in the area of habits, but it's really trying to get at that why. And I talked previously about the fact that this is not a new thing, that people have been struggling with this forever, and we still struggle with it today. So don't beat yourself up. We don't always do what we should do. But in trying to fix it, one of the common questions is, if you know better, will that help? Is it just really a knowledge gap? And, if that has crossed your mind, boy, I would say just look into your own past, look into your friends, look around. The reality is changing behavior is typically not a knowledge problem. So we know we shouldn't eat too much. We know we should exercise and move our bodies more. We know we should love on our loved ones. And we know we should make our sales calls if we're in sales. Like, often it's not knowing. It's the doing part that is the challenge. So occasionally, and if you're wondering, does it ever help? Absolutely, it does help. Knowing can be a catalyst for getting started. And so it's quite possible that you have what sounds really simple, but in the learning world is referred to as an insight. So when you're learning something and you have an epiphany and you connect dots that were previously not connected, that is referred to as a learning insight. Insight triggers a physical change in the brain. So a neural pathway begins to be paved. It gets created. It's fragile. It's like you've skied down the slope once and you can see the trail. But you got to keep in mind, the wind is blowing and storms are coming. That trail is going to be gone, even by the time you get to the top of the hill again and are ready to try it. So I love that analogy, by the way. The ski slope thing comes from a new friend of mine named Jen Lee, who is down at the Human Performance Institute. And she shared that mental model recently for how habits work. And it's like blazing a new ski path or a new trail down a hill, down a slope. If you've ever done that, you know what we're talking about. Okay. But here's the thing. It's fragile. You're going to have to do it again and again and again to turn it into an actual strong, natural neural pathway. So why doesn't that happen? We know we should. And here's the thing. If you haven't read, there are books on this topic. Chip and Dan Heath's book, Switch, is a good one. Their model is they talk about the elephant and the rider. There's another one, I can't think of who wrote it, that talks about Spock and Thor. And the whole idea is that we are two beings in one. I might even argue we're three. But there's a logical side of us. There is an emotional side of us. The third one I was going to say is there's a spiritual side of us. But really, for the sake of this argument, let's talk about the logic and the emotion. It's not different sides of us. It's not like these ethereal things. They're parts of our brain. And the problem is that all of our senses go through a center of our brain that is connected to emotion. So when the amygdala fires up and it senses that you're in danger, it senses some sort of emotional response, you get an emotional reaction. Most of what we do is emotional. It's not logical. So if you actually want to get to the logical state, you've got to learn, how do I suspend the emotional response? Some of that is knowing. But to do it consistently and do it for the long term, what you've got to do is take that logical thing that you mean to do, that you should do, doesn't matter what it is, and make it emotional. You've got to make an emotional connection to the thing that you should do. We'll talk about that a little bit more in another video. All right, have a great day. Thanks a lot.